Alrighty, so this is a presentation I put together here, and I wanted to try to show people, because we're seeing kind of a breakthrough with a lot of modern tools with AI right now, and one of those big tools is notebooklm, and this is the idea right now. Everybody is kind of getting used to using like ChatGPT and other language models to Google stuff and research. But notebooklm actually allows you to provide your own sources, and it only references from those sources. And you can actually kind of train your own model very easily right now with this. You don't have to have any programming or knowledge. It's just straight up a usable flow tool. And I actually wanted to show, not only, I'm just bringing up the tool, but I wanted to show how to use this really effectively, how to actually apply a theory. And there's a lot of people that are exploring a lot of conspiratorial knowledge, a lot of ancient knowledge is being recovered, and there's a lot of decoding, a lot of work I think that needs to be done to find out, what type of information we really have here. And I wanted to show people kind of a concept or a framework on how to do that very effectively. So on our slide here, I'm showing architecting the epistemological stack, okay? Breaking compartmentalized academia to synthesize suppressed scientific truth. Layer 1, foundational sciences, the how, okay? So step 1, this is integral. Like, you're actually figuring out where are we in science with the correlative topic of your discovery, right? What are you asking a question about? And where can I find correlations with modern science, with modern any study, not just science? I need to replace that word. Modern studies, any field. Layer 2, alternative frameworks. The what? So this is the thing you found that you haven't ever heard an explanation for it. And there's a lot of these things people have compartmentalized as, I don't really know. I'm not believing that. That's crazy. You could a fun example would be like aliens or something, right? We could throw aliens in here as a fun example. I've actually already built this entire slide off of my own research results on classified tech, and it's kind of take it with a grain of salt because it's just for the concept and it's fun. So, alternative frameworks, the what? This is your theory, right? This is the thing you found, you can't explain, and you'd like to know more about it. And even further than that, are you passionate and you have a lot of information about it and you'd like to prove it? Antiquity and occult, the who and when, right? The control systems, the why. So this is building sources that reference all the parameters that connect to your information. This is the idea of common denominators. Truth is not found in a single discipline, but in the deliberate curation and intersection of vastly different fields of knowledge. So step by step, going through, overthink to an extent about what is actually connected to the concept or the theory that you found. So for me, it's electricity. So I was able to go look in the past. What are all these old books? How many old books can I find about electrophysics? And how is that what's connected to that? And I actually, through many, many hours, ended up finding, like geopolymer research comes into play with electrophysics, metallurgy, the types of materials that allow the conductive effects we see and the different magnetic and electrical effects we see. So truth is not found in a single discipline, but in the deliberate creation and intersection of vastly different fields of knowledge. So layer 1, anchoring the matrix, right? You're creating, and this is the first time I'm bringing this term, I should have kind of referenced it a second ago, but anchoring the matrix in foundational sciences, extracting the strict mathematical and physical language required to prove any theory. All right, so take yourself out of the need to prove your own theory to an extent to find this logic. This is the idea of not hearing this example with me giving you a fish. I'm going to show you how to fish here. You're trying to find what is the foundational language that would translate your information into real life knowledge. So this is the idea of finding synonyms with knowledge in the past. This is a good route to take that I've found. Finding a book from from the late 1800s or something like that, well before the patent office, well before any of these modern suppression techniques, you can find that people have published books in the form of mathematics and, you know, their own terms, if you will. And many have found books like this that refer to terms like ether, vril, you know, 0 point radiation, all sorts of terms that are synonymous with the idea of the ether or this, you know, unproven medium or whatever. This is an idea of finding that synonym and seeing how it matches with your modern variation of the tech or the concept. So the language of mathematics, for me, I was able to find classical electrodynamics and basic electricity, you know, function, measuring the physical effects, provides the rigid equations, mathematical constants, and standard electromagnetic wave propagation rules. So this is me actually figuring out, okay, what do we know today, and how do we apply all of these rules of electromagnetism? Magnetism, electrical effects. Insight. You cannot prove a suppressed truth without first commanding the language of orthodox physics. So you must command the language of orthodox physics around your concept in order to uncover a suppressed truth. Panel B, the chemical lattice. So geopolymer chemistry and applications. Function, grounding theory and matter, the tetrahedral coordination of molecules and polysilicate networks. So this is actually correlating and going to find a source that provides insight, like maps the precise way energy crystallizes into physical geometry on the atomic level. Right, so looking at the theoretical physics of crystal energy comes with geopolymer chemistry. You see where this is just an overlap. If it were to be a real field, this is the field it would be in. And finding synonyms with older text to understand the language they're speaking through modern science and decoding that. And this is kind of this begins to form your matrix and foundational sciences and overlapping that with your information or your theory. So, layer 2, the source code of the material universe. Orthodox sciences measure the effects. Alternative frameworks measure the universal generative code. So this is kind of concentrating this idea that your orthodox sciences are showing your effects and allowing you real measurements on how to measure those. And the alternative frameworks provide the universal generative code. Right? They may have made significant progress past the ability to write math as a language. They're dealing with phenomena. These are physicists in the old days looking at effects, operating as visionaries outside of a mathematical language. And how do you reconcile that? And I'm aligning this with my research with Walter Russell, Steinmetz, Charles Proteus Steinmetz, and other modern physicists like Tesla. So Doug Vogt, I also forgot to mention Doug Vogt. Source Doug Vogt's reality revealed the dihold information system. Mechanism. The universe is a modulated information system. Matter is formed from information stored in a first dimension, computer-like structure called the dihold, an octahedron. Output generates reality through phase angles and specific dimensional frequencies. Concept 2, the dimensionless universe of light. Walter Russell's The Universe of One. So these are common denominators I was able to found in what people would normally call pseudoscience research, right? So mechanism, a purely tonal universe. All natural is a series of orderly tonal periodicities of one force. Proves that all motion is spiral and maps the 18 dimensions of motion that dictate energy reproduction. Just take a moment to absorb those. I read bad for absorption. But these concepts show an overlap or a common denominator. I'm kind of showing how now that I build that source code, this foundational language of orthodox science, I'm then able to go and find common denominators with concepts and studies from other people. And you can start to begin to identity credible, or what's that word? How to untether yourself from the identity credibility attachment of ideas, right? These men have actually just had to use different terms for different ideas, different concepts. Same concept. Layer 3, antiquity and the encryption of physics. Advanced electromagnetic and etheric mechanics were systematically encoded into ancient mystery religions. So the custodians, Egyptian mystery schools and early Freemasonry, artifacts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, and Masonic tracing boards serve as legacy data storage devices for high-level physics. Probably never heard that before, huh? The connection to David L. Corico's research proves that direct structural link between the Egyptian rites of Osiris and the Masonic legend of Hiram Abiff, both encrypting the same physical truth regarding energy modulation. So I'm actually showing how expansive some of these common denominators actually become when you start bringing in different sources and you have this layer of trying to look for these synonymical languages of sciences and research. So layer 4, the control systems in the grand firewall, the modern oligarch power structures that enforce compartmentalization and hoard the physics. So this is taking into account the fact that there is a filter built in to make it difficult for you to find the truth. That's a simple way to say it. The bloodlines, Fritz Springmeier's Bloodlines of the Illuminati, details the elite oligarchies that deliberately doctor history and control the entire learning process from the cradle to grave. The paradigm enforcers, John Leake's Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality Maps, how medical and economic paradigms are rigorously maintained to ensure public dependency and compliance. The hoarding of energy, William R. Lyne's Occult Ether Physics reveals how coercive monopolist corporate banking interests classify archaic free energy technology as state secrets. So you may actually be discovering something that's, actually already known, right? And you may already know that, and it's being suppressed. The goal, protect an artificial, scarcity-based free market from the ultimate disruption of limitless energy and uncompartmentalized truth. So this system is very well ingrained into our reality, be it conscious or unconscious. There's a whole debate about whether or not there's this bloodline of control. However it expresses itself is something you got to take into account, consider. The translation matrix. So this is a good way, once you've compiled these common denominators and you've spent time finding the various fields that speak the language of how to apply it to a real world, then you can start to build a language matrix. You can start to look at how to find the common words. So layer 1, hard physics. Layer 2, alternative frameworks. Layer 3, antiquity and occult. Layer 4, control systems. So layer 1 is 0-point radiation, polysilate lattices, electromagnetic sine waves, magnetic hysteresis. So all of these subjects are the same when we go and find them in other frameworks. 0-point radiation is inertial detritus. The ether, or Akasha. If you've ever heard of the Akashic records, this is, anyway, I don't want to get into the explanation. Classified anomalies. Right, this is the modern term for this. Oh, these are just classified anomalies. Right, polysilate lattices, dimensionless light octaves, sacred geometry and tracing boards, national security laws. Now, that may not make sense on this chart because I feel like that's a stretch. But the lattices and all of this sacred geometry and dimensionless light, this is very classified technology. This is your UFO tech type shit as far as the material science. Electromagnetic sine waves, modulated phase shifts, dihold, the lost word / sound dynamics, pseudoscientific heresy. All right, I shouldn't have added heresy, but it's like an exaggeration, right? These words are commonly used as pseudoscience. Okay, so magnetic hysteresis, centrifugal spirals, the Orphic egg, unfunded research. So I'm just showing how modern terms will literally label something that's hard physics, something we can actually point out. Right, you can find these synonyms that the modern world pulls in and explains. And they're exaggerated on the layer 4 kind of on purpose, just to show kind of how ridiculous the world ends up with their modern envisioning term, if that makes sense. So core epistemological rule. Do not water down the terms. Cross-reference the table. The overlap is the source code. So you're looking for this matrix on how to actually build your source code of language. What does this word mean? That's the same as the modern word. What does this word mean? That's the same as the modern word that you're applying. Okay, igniting common denominators. So this is a chart that just kind of shows the exact flow overall. So extract the math. So in my example, I was actually able to find Charles Proteus Steinmetz's standard electrical engineering equations, and I was able to isolate them and introduce them as a source. So this is what maps all the wave functions of the effects of electricity, magnetism. It's the foundation for the modern world in using electricity. So this is my foundation to make sure that there's, it's planted in the real world. It's not delusional, right? Number 2, apply the suppressed code. These exact equations mathematically prove the existence of the dynamic omnipresent ether documented in the Vril compendium in the occult ether physics. So by using this language to check and compare the physics we see inside the occult ether physics, we can actually apply these effects and systems and processes to the real world. We literally can. And the old books are using an older language and an analog-based system, versus now we can use solid-state systems. That's an interesting little insight. So 3, trace the custodians. We verify these physical laws against the encrypted dimensions of the Great Pyramid and Masonic lore. So I'm actually overlapping the discovery of Steinmetz explaining occult ether physics, and then looking, okay, so what do those match the physical laws, or do those physical laws match the encrypted dimensions and the Great Pyramid and the Masonic lore? All the symbolism, the sacred geometry, the information that's stored in the pyramid. Is there anything meaningful that overlaps with the magnetic field discovery and the nature of our world, right? I mean, the question goes deep as you really want to go here. So 4, bypass the firewall. We bypass the elite filtering mechanism by identifying the exact points of magnetic hysteresis and inertial detritus they attempt to classify. So this is pointing out that through this stack, I'm actually bypassing the filter completely by finding my own path of where language moved and changed through common denominators of information structures. Because information is the core language that you should be after. You should never brand anything with a name or a number. It should always be the information. Okay, so here's the actual output I got from my research stack. The hardware of the stack. A completed research stack provides the actual conceptual blueprints for suppressed technologies. The patents validates and decodes the Salvador Pais patent, US 101-44532. Probably shouldn't list those, but on high-energy electromagnetic field generators. The drive mechanism employs electropulsion powered by the extraction of zero-point energy mapping directly to Walter Russell's spiral mechanics. The results free energy in advanced propulsion systems. And this is actually able, because of the stack I built, it's actually able to create a combination of all these terms and actually map them to modern terms with modern patents and show how these are actually measured real systems. So, and if you got a little, that's kind of the end of the slides here, but I wanted to point out, if I do post this video, that the concept here is basically taking as many sources as you can that have common denominators and and the real secret sauce is applying a reverse engineering of language to find those common denominators. Like, actually understand the concepts that they're talking about when they use certain words, so that you can corroborate information and concepts, not just terms, right? Terms are very useless the farther you go back in time, especially with patents and with the way things have moved around. So anyway, I hope this video helps somebody. Maybe I'll get better at making them and stuff, but thanks for listening.